It seems as more and more time goes on with these stories coming out about January 6th, the more and more eye-opening it becomes, especially when it comes to people that were involved with it. Now, the last time I talked about January 6th was about that guy who got sentenced to about, what was it, 20 years in prison for the role he played. Well, now you have another person right here. I don't know how much time he'll get because right now he's been convicted, but we don't know as to what sentencing he's going to get. But I'm sure as we go further, it's going to explain it. In this picture, you see a man by the name of Justin Lee. Now, this man is a Maryland cop. Let me repeat that. He is a Maryland cop, and he engaged in activity down there at the Capitol on January 6th, where he threw a whole smoke bomb into a tunnel where there were other cops. To the people who are talking about back the blue, what do y'all got to say about this? And to the AAPI crowd, what y'all got to say about this as well? You know what actually just grinded my gears about this whole thing is not necessarily about what happened that day. It's the fact that the people that are the quote unquote supporters literally will lie to your face into themselves and say that this was not a violent act that occurred on that day. I don't understand how that wasn't a violent act, but I mean, if that's what you got to tell yourself to sleep well at night, so be it. But I know what I saw that day. The establishment knows what they saw that day. And quite frankly, the world knows what it saw that day. If anyone can look at that footage and tell you that that was not violent activity, you should be very wary of them and side-eye them at all costs, because that means they love violence. And anything that remotely looks like violence is something to be praised to them. These are some of the people out here that probably love war more than anything. They'll say they'll love it, but they'll never engage in it, but that's a whole nother story for another day. A Maryland police officer was convicted Friday of charges that he joined a mob's January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol and hurled a smoke bomb and other objects at police officers guarding a tunnel entrance. U.S. District Judge Trevor McFadden heard 2 days of trial testimony without a jury this week before he found Montgomery County police officer Justin Lee guilty of 2 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. The judge, who also acquitted Lee of 2 other misdemeanors, is scheduled to sentence him on November 22nd. Lee, aged 26, ignited and threw a smoke bomb into the tunnel entrance on the Capitol's Lower West Terrace, where a mob of rioters attacked a group of outnumbered police officers. The device struck a police officer's riot shield and filled the mouth of the tunnel with a large plume of smoke. My question is this: since he was a police officer in Maryland, how did he get that smoke bomb? Is this something that he got from his department and then illegally used there? Because clearly he definitely illegally used it. So my thing is, did he get that from his precinct? Did he get that from like their weapons locker or something like that? Or did he go and buy that online or buy that somewhere? Or did he make it himself? That's the question I have. I don't know if they're going to answer it or not, but just in case they don't, that's what I'd like to know the answer to. No police officer should have to endure these attacks and provocations, McFadden said. Lee, who remains free until his sentencing, didn't show any obvious reaction as the judge read aloud his verdict because he knows what he did. He was guilty of it. His attorney declined to comment after the hearing because there's nothing left to say. He obviously did it. And there's pictures of him actually there. He actually has like a face mask on. It's a Maryland flag mask that he's wearing. You probably will see it in the thumbnail. After Lee's arrest last October, the police department said it had suspended him without pay. Department spokesperson Shira Goff said police officials will be moving ahead with termination procedures now that Lee has been convicted. The actions of one individual do not define the entire department, the department said in a statement last year. Lee of Rockville, Maryland, applied to be a Montgomery County police officer in July 2021, 6 months after the riot. Wait a minute. Now this I did not expect to hear. So this guy wasn't even a cop when he did what he did. He applied to be a cop 6 months after the fact. So that just dispelled my question when I was asking, did he get the smoke bomb from a weapons locker at the department he was working at, because he wasn't even working at the department when he did this, which means he probably bought it or he made it himself. Now this guy's very bold to have done that and then go apply to be a cop. This makes this story even more goofy. So you went to the January 6th invasion, threw smoke bombs into a tunnel that hit other police officers, and then 6 months later you applied to be a cop and then end up becoming one. The same people that you terrorize, you end up becoming. Make that make sense. The department said it hired Lee approximately 1 year after the riot and didn't know about his alleged involvement in the attack until July 2023, when it learned he was under FBI investigation. Video shows Lee wearing a Maryland flag patterned gaiter over his face outside the Capitol. He also wore a military-style medical bag attached to his clothes. Lee waved at other rioters to overtake police as the mob attacked the line of officers on the West Plaza, according to prosecutors. Moving to the Lower West Terrace, Lee tossed the smoke bomb and 3 other rock-like objects at officers guarding the tunnel, the judge found. Prosecutors said Lee later joined the other rioters in spotlighting officers inside the tunnel with a flashlight. The judge rejected Lee's claims that he was just trying to quote-unquote make a statement about police brutality after seeing officers use force against other rioters that day. It's funny, he talks about police brutality going on there, but I bet he didn't say anything about when it was police brutality going on with black people, but I wouldn't expect him to, and then becomes a cop himself. That's what makes this whole situation with him even more goofier than I thought it would be. McFadden also said he believes Lee went to the Capitol on January 6th intending to disrupt Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory over Donald Trump in the 2020 presidential election. Well, that's pretty much why all of them were there. At least that's the reasoning that they gave. Defense attorney Terrell Roberts III said the assault charge in this case only applies to acts involving physical contact with the assault victim. Robert argued that the riot shield prevented physical contact between the smoking device and the officer's body. It doesn't matter. He threw smoke bombs there and it hit the person's shield, which the person had in their hand to guard themselves from getting actually hit, but it was still in their direction. And the fact of the matter is he used smoke bombs there so they could try to clear a pathway to get further into the Capitol or into that tunnel. That's why I couldn't be a lawyer, because it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like if you have to be a lawyer for someone like this, it's like you have to completely drop your good morality to try to get your client off. I know that's the case, but it's like, damn, you have to sit up there and lie for them to get them off. But then when your client gets on the stand, if they have to take the stand, they have to take an oath under law to swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help them God. And if they commit perjury, then then they're going to jail. But the lawyer can sit there and lie all day. That's crazy. It would be bad policy to send a man to prison where the evidence fails to prove each element of an offense he wrote before the trial. Lee was indicted on 7 charges. The judge convicted him of 2 felonies, interfering with police during a civil disorder and assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers, and misdemeanor charges of disorderly conduct and trespassing. But the judge also acquitted him of 2 misdemeanor charges of engaging in physical violence. McFadden ruled that prosecutors didn't present sufficient evidence that Lee committed an act of physical violence. Lee had been on administrative leave since he shot and killed a man suspected of stabbing 4 people on July 22nd, 2023, according to the police department. With him going there and doing what he did on January 6th, I think they need to go back and look at this case. The department said Lee hadn't been performing a police officer's duty since the shooting, but his unpaid suspension stemmed from his arrest on the January 6th charges. So this guy, from what he did on July 22nd, 2023, which had nothing to do with January 6th, is why he wasn't pretty much on duty, so to speak. But when he got found out about his involvement with January 6th, that's when they snatched away his pay. On the day of last year's shooting, officers responded to calls for a stabbing at a thrift store in Silver Spring, Maryland, when they confronted a suspect holding a butcher's knife. The suspect ignored officers' commands to drop the knife and lunged at Lee before the officer shot him, police said in a news release. One of the 4 stabbing victims was critically injured, the police said. A police official told reporters that all of the victims were expected to survive the attacks, which he described as unprovoked. More than 1,400 people have been charged with Capitol riot-related federal crimes. Over 900 of them have pled guilty. Over 200 others have been convicted after trials decided by a judge or jury. Only 2 January 6 defendants have been acquitted of all charges after a trial. One of them, a Mexican man, was acquitted by McFadden after a trial without jury. So there you have it. It looks like another one done bit the proverbial dust. Now I'm curious to see what kind of sentencing he's going to get, considering 2 of the misdemeanors were dropped. Now, I thought was interesting is that the 2 misdemeanors were dropped, but they made sure to keep them felonies, which is good because that's where the bulk of his time is going to come from as far as the sentencing goes. So I guess we just got to wait until November 22nd. But the thing that gets me is the fact that this guy's able to walk around free until that time. Mind you, I'm recording this on August 24th. November 22nd is his sentencing date. So you're talking about roughly about 2.5 months, going on 3 months, until he actually gets sentenced and he's just walking around free. It's no way. I mean, my thing is this: at least put some kind of monitoring device on him until that time, because this guy could very well be a flight risk. I mean, really think about it. Remember, I did a story about a man who fled to freaking Ireland because he was scared to do 3 months in jail. What makes you think this guy wouldn't try to flee? I'm just saying. But this guy he's an idiot. This guy's dumb. He wasn't a cop when he did what he did, but then goes to apply to be a cop after throwing smoke bombs at cops in the tunnel at the Capitol on January 6th. That's the part that right there that took me for a loop. That was the plot twist right there for me, because I'm thinking going into this he was already a cop, but he wasn't even that. So you attack the people that you eventually turn into or become just a few months later, or when you applied. I'm telling you, common sense ain't that common.